and Trump set for key talks today. I'll start with you, Michael Agwanda, on why this is significant to Kenya, what Uhuru's trip to the U.S. mainly means for Kenya.
Michael, AGOA is not sure of what they're supposed to do in issues of trade between the United States and AGOA countries. And there are issues with the countries that have said they do not want Mitumba into their countries, and they've been slammed with sanctions, and not just sanctions, but their goods have had to pay some taxes that previously they were not paying. Now, Kenya and America are huge trading partners. In fact, America, I think, is the second largest trading partner. We're exporting so much goods to America, only second to Uganda. In other words, America answers about 600 to 700 billion annually in terms of the trade between Kenya and America. Now, that's a very, very important partner. Besides, America also has so many assets in this country, an organization that is supporting non-profit organization. USAID is doing a lot of projects in this country that are not loans. We are not paying them back. They're grants to this country. Now, that's a partner you need to engage with. But remember, this is also a huge development for Kenya, foreign policy, simply because the United States is inviting a second African president to the White House to sit with Trump that previously was not considered very favorable to Africans and African nation. And for our country to be selected to be the second, our president, to be the second president in Africa after Buhari in Nigeria to meet Trump in White House is a huge image to our country. And I think we need to really thank our foreign department that has really done well in the previous government, and also in this government. They've started this huge traveling, but not just traveling, engaging these people on specific matters. When you look at our debts, Michael, and more so to China, about 3 billion out of 31 billion, which is our budget for this financial year, then we're talking about a country that perhaps may not just give you money so that you pay it back, but how can they inject into the agenda the big four that Uhuru want to leave as a legacy for this country. Now, those big four, if those are some of the parameters that our president is going to discuss with Trump. And remember that in America, this is a place where you have multi-billionaires of the world that definitely, when you talk about, industrialization and creating industries in this country to create jobs, these people can come into this country and make that possible overnight. But then how do you get them? You need to get them through their political leadership, and that is the President of the United States of America. So this is a huge visit.
Yeah, okay, Irungu Kangata, one of the things, of course, that we are likely, or Kenyans expect that the President is likely to discuss with the President of the U.S. is the Big Four, because it needs funding. But of course, the question that remains is also in regards to the debt. Kenya is already overburdened by debt. If we get into more debt, then that is likely to have a negative effect on our economy over time.
Yes, two things. Yes, I agree. Kenya is highly indebted, and you must take into account the Constitution provides that the first charge to a consolidated fund is payments to our external debts. But on the other hand, I think GDP to debt ratio is quite small in Kenya vis-a-vis other countries. Places like Japan, places like America, those are highly indebted economies. So when you compare our ratio, that is GDP ratio to the debt, to us we still have several areas we can still leverage. So I think this crisis of debt is still quite early. We are yet to say Kenya is highly indebted. Uhuru Kenyatta can still proceed and leverage and get more debt from where I sit. In fact, even if we compare ourselves with other countries which are regional.
Getting more debt is not the issue. The issue is where that leaves us, the burden that it leaves Kenya with. I mean, it's okay to get debt, I guess, but the other question, of course, is whether that debt is going into the right areas, because then if it goes into the right areas with time, we're likely to benefit. If not, then of course we are burdened for a very long time.
First and foremost, there's nothing wrong with debts. No one becomes rich without any debt. That's number one. Number two, when you look at the areas that Kenyans have been focusing in terms of debts, they are positive. Mm-hmm. It has been in infrastructure areas. For instance, we are now almost energy secure on the basis of debts. Kenyan has been able to leverage on debts and create so many energy sources. Remember, about 10 or 15 years ago, we used to rely on geothermal sources of energy. Now we have diversified. We have solar energy that is being harnessed in Garissa. We have steam energy that is being harnessed in places like Rift Valley. So we have diversified that through debt. We have now new roads, we have SGR, which we have been able to procure through debt. So in my own opinion, the government is doing the right, is investing in the right area through debt. We have now extension of electricity, which is now has moved up from 3 million. Between 63 to about 2013, we had only 3 million households which used to have electricity. Now we have been able to double that to almost 6 million on the basis of debt. So in my own opinion, so long as you're taking debts to the right sector, there is nothing wrong. Okay. However, I would disagree a little bit with my friend. We are overstating this trip. Why? On the basis that, one, yes, America is the largest economy in the world, but according to IMF, when you look at what we call the expansiveness of an economy, when you are calculating using what we call purchasing power parity, then China is now the number one. Even if you were to talk in absolute terms, China may still overtake America in absolute terms, maybe within the next 5 years. So, yes, America is a powerhouse. It's an important area through our people who live in the US. They send us a lot of remittances, which are now the largest source of foreign exchange. But going forward, in my own opinion, when you look at projection, there's no doubt about it. The next world appears to belong to China. Because if at all, the economies are almost the same in terms of size. But when you do what we call, you divide that world amongst the people, that is GDP per capita. The Chinese one is about $10,000. Meaning, once they become rich and richer, they will easily overtake them, and they'll be so powerful because they're talking about so many people and having a lot of wealth. Meaning, in my own opinion, our foreign policy should be calligraphed a little bit to link toward this, to take advantage of a country whose GDP is currently growing at about 7% per annum.
Okay. Weda, would be naive to think that the US is purely benefiting us as Kenya and as Africa. We do know that Kenya is the second country after Nigeria that Donald Trump seems to be interested in. What is it likely that they would be after?
We must remember that Kenya is strategic in terms of military positioning. For the security of America, Kenya must be in their closet militarily. Now, Kenya has been leaning towards China,
Asia,
and Asia, and China does not mean well. They are working stealthily against America. And they want to take their lies. And then they are rich, they have ready money, which they give. America has not been having a lot of ready money to give. So America is trying to recapture its strategic allies. Remember when Trump came into office, he had a lot of disdain for Kenyans because of Obama. He had disdain for Obama and for Kenyans. And some of the people he would say he would throw out are Kenyans. But as he settles down into the presidency, he realizes that there are some strategic countries that you must not allow the other side to take over. That explains why, in my view, he has now put a special place for the president of Kenya. On the question of debt that my brother has said, we are tethering at a dangerous level. Debt is only good if you borrow it to generate income. If you borrow debt to consume, then you are running into trouble. Kenyans we have borrowed a lot of money, but it is mainly for consumption. When you talk about electricity, when you talk about this internal improvement, like borrowing money to put in new sofa sets and a new fridge and a new this, is good, but eventually you'll go down. China is rich because they are generating things which are also for export. From there you make money and pay debt. So until we reach where we are borrowing to generate income,
then we are running into trouble.
Then we are running into trouble. And my senator should know this, so that you say it in the Senate, so that we know, protect us there. Otherwise, we may go down with huge debt. Yes.
Michael Agwanda, and I know you want to comment on that, but as you bring in your comments as well, also, is Donald Trump somebody we can trust? Is it somebody who we should walk cautiously towards, given his track record?
As far as I'm concerned, in terms of trust, I think when you look at Obama's tenure and even President Bush's tenure, there were a lot that was coming to Africa that we're not seeing with Donald Trump's government. And so on the basis of trust, I don't know why I will answer that question, but trust on whether it will be able to work with Africa, I am still not very sure, because we're yet to see exactly what they want to do for Africa. Remember that Obama's time and Bush time, there was a lot of money that was coming through research, through HIV/AIDS. It was funding human rights groups, and we are not seeing that with President Trump now. But let me talk about the issues of trade and China vis-a-vis United States of America. And as my brother alluded, that China is becoming a superpower. I totally agree with that. But now, when we look at ourselves as a country strategically, we need to ask ourselves, do we go west or we go east? And I'll tell you what, we better go west. The reason why we are going east, before I say why we need to go west, is because most Kenyan government are corrupt people, that they get money from the Chinese, and 20% of that money goes into people's pockets. So we'd rather go to a place where they accept our corruption, they will pay a down deposit and pay people so that they can get the tenders done. When you go west, that will not happen. They might come to invest on an expressway like what they're trying to do from Nairobi to Mombasa, but that money is not going to go into people's pocket in terms of billion. When we look at the SGR, Mombasa, Nairobi, the figure of that SGR was 225 billion. Suddenly, it was 350 billion. Where did the 10 billion go? Of course, it went into someone's pocket.
Lining pockets.
China definitely is thriving on corruption, and they've realized that Kenya is a fertile ground for corruption, and because of that, they are doing everything possible to invest in this country, and that's why we are accepting them. And number one. And number two, when we also look at the trade, my friend, between us and China, they only did about 8 billion to Kenya. That's the money we got from them. But how much did we import from them? Over 400 billion. Is there a balance? Absolutely not. Then why do we have to go to that direction? While in the United States of America, we did over 600 billion of trade. In other words, we exported that. Then why will you still want to? And they spent about another 600 billion to give to Kenyans on health, on non-profit organization. And when you look at that, then the question you're asking yourself is, the people who make decisions, like my brother here who is in the Senate, where do we need to go? Do we need to go to a place basically where if you're given money, they will take it back with all manner of profit, and you will employ a number of their people, even who sweeps the train, and then you expect them to say, well, we are creating jobs for Kenya. When we want to create jobs, you probably want to look in a place where somebody will bring grants into this country to develop an area, and once that area is developed, people get job out of it, people get paid out of it, and they pay taxes.
So maybe just before you finish, what is your expectation of Uhuru? What should he come back with, in his briefcase from the US? What is it that would make you feel like this is working for us?
I really think that we need to enhance our trade between the United States of America and Kenya, so that we are not just doing 600 million or 500 million, but we are doing 1 trillion. I also hope that our traveling, and we've just seen KQ traveling on the 28th
Direct to
of October,
New York.
going to New York, that this will also be a hub of Africa, that many other countries will come into this country. And when they come to this country, they will invest in this country, they will travel through this country and buy our goods free of, duty free at the airport. I also hope that the borders between Kenya and the United States will be open to us, that it will be a lot easier. And President Obama really did that. If you go to the embassy now, people get a 5-year visa. That is not common with many countries in Africa. I also pray that we will be able to, leverage on non-profit benefits that have been coming from United States. I also pray that the United States will also be able to invest more on research, CDC in this country. I also pray they will also be able to invest more, not only just on research, but also empowering human rights organizations that they've been doing over the years. Unfortunately, President Uhuru's tenure has not been very kind to non-profit organization. That need to be extended, because where the government is not able to serve well, the non-profit organization will definitely do it.
All right, Irungu Kangata.
I disagree with those figures, and I was trying to look whether it's a story that captures those figures. I didn't see, because to the last time I checked, that Kenya was exporting about 40 billions of goods into the US, whereas what we were getting from them is a little bit, about 60 billion or thereabout. But I would agree with him on the aspect of the figures concerning Kenya and China, that indeed the trade imbalance is skewed in favor of China, with a huge deficit. But to me, there lies the opportunity. That the opportunity lies in the sense that, one, we are talking of 1.4 billion people in China. In America, we are talking about 300 million people. Number two, we are talking with an economy that is growing, on average 7% per annum. Here we are talking with an economy that is now almost at a constant level. It's like on a plateau.
The US,
yes, it's about 2% or about 3% at its best. And that trajectory, by the way, has been there for so many years, that America has been growing at a small pace, but for over a prolonged period of time. But here in East Asia, the opposite has been the truth, that they have been growing at a huge rate. So meaning you need to take advantage of a country that is on its upward trajectory if you want to make your country rich. Number two, I disagree strongly that Obama has helped Kenya. Obama has been a greatest failure insofar as African relationships with America are concerned. One, he has been funding us on issues concerning gays. Surely, you now to come give people money here to come and tell us to start marrying each other, men and women. Surely, what value are you adding to this country, if at all that is your trajectory? In fact, I support Trump. He has said those are nonsense. Things like coming to fund some NGOs which have been promoting abortion.
Right.
Trump has said
as a legislator, what is it that you'd expect Uhuru Kenyatta to come back in his briefcase that would make you feel that indeed it was a trip that was worthwhile?
Two things. Number one, I would propose that Uhuru probably entered into an arrangement where we can be able to export our labor into America. Leave alone even labor, by the way, in terms of educational exchanges.
Why would we need to export our labor into America when we already did,
Not labor per se. I'm talking about education exchanges. Remember the 1963 airlifts where so many of our young people went to America. To me, that was positive, because I agree that America is an advanced society. We need to send our people there. They get the requisite skills. They can either come back in Kenya and utilize those skills, or even remain there and be sending us the remittances. So to that, to me, is a positive thing. So that would be number one. Number two, we need to expand various items which are currently being provided for under AGOA. When you look at that act, what products benefits from AGOA? There are few. If you can be able to access those, to expand that list to include maybe our coffee, our tea, to me that would be a positive step. But most importantly, to me, West is a decaying system. To me, the world belongs to the East. And why? One, the numbers. By the way, they don't lie.
Okay.
You're talking of huge numbers.
Although we are, like Michael Agwanda had raised, one of the big questions is also to do with integrity. The East is one that would be left with many question marks and maybe benefits very few Kenyans, as opposed to the West, which would probably be slower, but would benefit us in the long term. Whether maybe
So, no. Can I reply to that?
I want us to move on to something else.
No,
I want to give
can I
Weda a
reply
chance.
to that?
Yeah,
please,
very briefly.
Two things. To me, that's a mistake which can be corrected. But it's not even Chinese mistake, it's our leaders' mistake. Number two...
Say our mistake as you're a leader.
Yes, of
Not our
course.
leader's mistake, your
Number two, you may talk of imports as a negative thing, but also look at the positive aspects. It has enabled people to access things which they could not have accessed before.
But you see, it kills our manufacturing industry.
Well, of course, it's our problem.
Which is what meant to be part of the Big Four agenda.
No, it's
which
our
we should
problem.
be building.
No, it is us to leverage, to look at what our strength. For instance, in agro-processing, China, even if it's a manufacturing hub, it does not manufacture everything. So you look at China, what can we take there, which is manufactured, then we leverage on that. For instance, they are not into agro-processing as compared to Kenya. We take advantage of that.
Okay, your final comments on this?
Our biggest nightmare as a country today, the biggest challenge the people of Kenya are facing is in the area of healthcare. I think it forms part of the reason why people are stealing so much. Because families come from wealth to poverty when it comes to matters of health. Doctors fleecing people. Now there is even what we call medical tourism. People just, they test you here kidogo, you are told this one India, 6 million. You come back India, and again when you come back you're in a coffin. Things which ordinarily you can say this one is in a bad state. You saw where, if McCain was here in Kenya, they would have done a bill of 100 million. Doctors would be saying, let's run to India, come back. I thought if the president was coming, he would have come, discussed how the health system, the Obamacare, and where they can come in and how we can improve ours as we also stop the Mitumba and encourage our manufacturing industries without necessarily importing Mitumba-like clothing also from China, so that we grow from within. We will only be strong if we grow from within. Now our tea is gone. You don't know, you don't even take it. Our coffee, gone. Our sugar, gone. What exactly do we have when we even talk about balance of trade? There must only be balance. You must only complain when you say, we have these goods we want to bring to you, but you are stopping us from bringing. Even if now Trump said, we want to make it.
Give us your coffee and tea.
Give us your coffee and tea. Where is it? The farmers are struggling. In Muranga now their senator is a chief if he doesn't want to say, see, no evil here, no evil. So basically we have to improve, re-engineer from inside. The way China has re-engineered from inside, then we say, we have this and this and this. We want you to buy from us, and then we also buy this from you.
Okay.
Otherwise, we are down for now.
Gentlemen, allow me to move the conversation to something else, because I'd like us to also look at matters local. And this is the IEBC. We last week had the commissioners who apparently had resigned suddenly appear. And Michael Agwanda, just to hear your comments on that, and it leaves me as a Kenyan wondering really whether we have systems in place that can be followed. How can somebody claim to resign, disappear for 3 months, then reappear?
Just before that, give me 1 second. I want to say something about exporting labor to other countries. If you've lived in the US, you can make a phone call to your nearest customer service on AT&T or T-Mobile, AT&T or T-Mobile, telephone companies. The person who will answer that phone call will be coming from China. That is how we can export labor, not necessarily going there physically
going there.
But we can be trained as a country so that we are agents of those multinational companies doing telephone all over the world. That will earn people money right in their homes. So that is a very good thing. And secondly, but not last, is look, it's about the heart. Is Chinese coming to help us or to indebt us, or is West coming to help us? And I think the West has a heart to come and help us. The Chinese has a heart to take more so that they can feed their growing economy and numbers.
Okay.
Now I come back to IBC. It has never been hard. that you can resign and then a few months later you walk into your office and you say that you want to sit in that office. That just shows how ineptitude our Senate and our Parliament is, that they cannot make a decision within a time frame and start speeding up the process of hiring commissioners to sit in that office. That shows the ineptitudeness of also our executive, where they know there's a problem, but they're just buying time, hoping that that confusion will fade away and it will resolve itself. That's why we're into the issues of corruption. Because when you look at police, every single year, they top the list of the most corrupt institution in this country, but they're still on our roads and they're still doing things normally. What I'm saying with the IEBC is the executive and the legislature arm of government are not keen to resolve issues. And I think their biggest fear is they interfered, they were part and parcel of the interference at the IEBC in our last general election. And for that reason, they do not want to hound these people out because they might just release too much information that might take us where we are not supposed to be. With their handshake, let's leave things the way they are. But let me tell you, we are just postponing the problem. These people had resigned. They were on cameras when they are resigning. They signed an affidavit. They should not go back to that office. In fact, they should not even, and I like what Chebukati did for the first time. He said, these are not members of my staff, and for that reason, lock those doors. I don't even want them here. And I really think that's the way we need to go. Let's make changes at IEBC, but we cannot have people that said we cannot work with this individual called the chairman that is not able to run IEBC, and then a few months down the line, they never even went to court, and then a judge makes some ruling that is, just in the interest of some few people, and then they say, okay, we seem to get a leeway here, let's go back. Absolutely not, and they should not be accepted back.
Rungo Kangata.
First and foremost, to reply to what he has mentioned.
Yes, he has mentioned the Senate
yes.
there and legislators.
No, the issue concerning international relationships. International relationships, they are not based on heart. They're usually based on interest. So I disagree that with that contention, that what you see Americans and Western doing here, and they want to assist that with a heart. No, it's purely a decoy for some interests which are hidden.
The interests involved.
Which are hidden. They cannot say they have our heart when they colonized us and enslaved us for more than 400 years. Be that as it may, to come back on this issue.
The IEBC.
Yes, the issue of the IEBC. You cannot have your cake and eat it. What happened? It was a simple case. Some people went to court, they sued Chebukati, they alleged before the judge that Chebukati commission is not duly constituted and therefore it cannot proceed to hold by-election. And in reply to that suit, he said no, it is constituted well, and those people who are saying not to be with us, they did not resign correctly. So technically they are with us, and the court agreed with that submission, which was done by, I would imagine, by Chebukati's lawyers. Okay, after the judgment, what happened? They said, okay, you have said we are still in office, so we come back. So surely,
are you saying you're in agreement with their coming back?
Of course, it goes without saying.
But Kangata, come on, it cannot be taken that lightly and simplified by virtue of the fact that they came on national TV, they made very serious accusations of the chairman and say that he is unable. What has happened in those 3 months that they've been away, or 4 months? And secondly, have they been receiving their salary given that they themselves resigned?
Your moral argument,
the
issue we're doing your statement from a moral point of view is correct. I agree. It's immoral what they are doing. But from a legal point of view, it is correct.
But Irongo Kangata, we cannot live in a society live in a society where we completely disregard the moral side of things and say now they're going to be so legalistic that we're only going to go by law.
No, sure.
You as a senator should be somebody who...
No, the question is, there's a judgment which has been delivered by a court of law. Unless you want to say that judgment is fake or it's...
So your stand in Kangata is that they are okay to come back to office and they should continue working?
Based on that judgment. There's a judgment which has been made by a court of law. There's no appeal to the best of my knowledge. Surely, even me, even if I was there...
I thought that I was shocked when I saw in the briefing that they came back. I was out of tune in news because I was in the village. They came back. I thought it would have been as simple as, which judge is saying I didn't resign? Who did I not write to? You say you didn't write to Gitonga. I say, Gitonga, please find and close my letter telling you I've resigned. It is not now to go behind some bush. Then you say, you read some decision in a bush somewhere inside. Then you sneak and then you say, I've come back. They are making IEBC a circus, an opera.
And not just
joke.
IEBC, I think even in the face of Kenyans, that's
And
really...
I think now they have been accusing Chebukati. Now themselves, they have sunk so low that I can assure you the whole bunch will not conduct the next election because they are a big joke. Now I'm beginning to suspect. Before I was very firm that President Uhuru won and defeated the other side. But when you see this circus, then you say maybe NASA saw something that we didn't see. This kind of circus. You resign, they just wake up one day, we can't work with this, now resign. Then suddenly there is constructive resignation or even sacking. If you come here now, and you are not assigned to this job you are doing, you are told the askaris tell you just stay there at the pen where they are. You should behave. He used to ask me and call me Saweda. These people, they always tell me to come and I sit at the gate. I will tell you, Kitonga, you have been constructively sacked.
Dismissed.
So you cannot therefore say you resigned, but because a court says you did not write to the right person, now you come back. You would still say this is the letter. Otherwise, you are out. What they have done is to soil IEBC so bad. They have made it to be so low, so down that they cannot conduct any
Okay, we
elections.
need to wind up. What are your thoughts on Irungu Kangata's stand? Because you're a lawyer as well.
Yes.
And there is the law, but
Yes.
it is also what we'd call the spirit of the law.
Now, let me tell you two things. One, if you're holding an office, you must hold it. The Constitution provides you must hold it in a way that brings dignity and honor to that office. That therefore means you don't resign and come back. You don't behave in a way that dishonors that office. That is one. Two, when you announce, resignation is not in the letter. Resignation is in the heart and the intention. When you stand and pronounce, I have quit, the next thing is, what is the procedure of quitting? But technically, I've quit. So they quit and announce, and Kenyans know. The judge only said that they did not write to the president. Okay? And that basically means they should have been asked, please write to the president that you have left. But they left. They even left office. They went away. So you cannot therefore say the spirit and the express provision of the letter that now they can come back, whatever. Senator, you are going to fly this country to chaos.
All right,
If we have
gentlemen,
this kind
we'll
of
need to
people.
wind up. Your closing comments, Michael Agwanda, 30 seconds each, please, so that we wind up. Your closing
I'm
comments.
so sorry to hear my brother here say that it is okay for these people to come back. I don't think the Kenyans hold that view, and I don't think even the Senate hold that view. Being there is a leader in the government and in the Senate, if that is the position of the Senate, then we are in a bad country that is going to plunge this country into more problem in 2022. The reform in IBC must be done, and these people should not come back to the office.
All right, closing comments.
This is the year we are proceeding to the national exams. I would urge the teachers and Sossion to take a sober, proper approach to issues so that our children sit the exams, the schools are safe, and the country moves forward. Small things can be discussed next year in January.
Okay, Irungu Kangata, you have the final word.
That finding by the judge has every likelihood it was made pursuant to submissions by Geopolitical, which submissions I would imagine were crafted in a manner to suggest that that resignation was not procedural and therefore it was null. On the basis of that submission, the judge proceeded to make that finding. If at all that is the case, then also Chebukati is culpable. Because, as we say in the concept which we call extopo, you cannot make a representation one here and then based on that, when another part relies on that representation, you start to repudiate it. So if at all he told the court, these people have not resigned, then when they come back to the office, he tells them, no, you can't enter the draft office. He is also guilty of perjury.
All right, we're going to wind up right there. Thank you very much, Senator Irungu Kangata, who is also the Deputy Chief Whip in the Senate. We have Ambrose Weda, who is a lawyer. And last but not least, Michael Agwanda, who is a governance expert. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning for The Way It Is. And that's where we wind up The Way It Is this morning. But Morning Express is still on, so we're going to take a short break. It's now 24 minutes to 8. And with that break, we're going to be looking at the traffic flow on Kenyatta Avenue. But do stay with us. We have more lined up for you right here on